In this video, I spent 100 days in 7 deadly sins. My goals for these 100 days were to defeat all the 7 deadly sins. Sorry, they were the only bosses in the mod, so I had no choice in the matter. And I also had to defeat a dragon, since I had the Ice and Fire mod installed, so let's be honest, I had no choice in that matter either. It was pretty much kill or be killed. So yeah, will I be able to survive these 100 days, and on top of that, actually be able to complete my goals? Watch till the end to find out, and also subscribe for more 100 days videos like this. We're trying to reach 200k by the end of the year, and it would mean so much if we could. But with that all being said, let's just get into day 1. On day 1, I spawned in and got some wood. I know, very rare way to start off in the survival world. I then got some stone tools right away. It always triggers me when people use wooden tools for like the first 3 or 4 days straight, like just get some stone tools, please. It takes less than 30 seconds. Anyway, that little tirade aside, I then went to get some more wood, as well as some more food, because I thought I might as well get that stuff out of the way so I could focus on more interesting things later on without having to stop. With that being said, another thing I had to get out of the way was some basic mining. There was gonna be a lot of fighting in these 100 days, spoiler alert. So you know, some weaponry was kind of needed, and I wasn't going for any basic stuff. No vanilla iron swords here, no. I made myself a Galdio. It does more damage than an iron sword and attacks faster too, so it was essentially just an iron sword but better. And it also costs a lot more materials, but let's ignore that part. Anyway, that sword came in really useful right away because as the sun was setting, I found myself a little abandoned castle thing. I yoinked the chest in the middle while getting shot at, but that was all well worth it since I had a diamond chestplate in it. I went back after healing and took out the strays that were defending the castle. I then looted the rest of the chests in the structure and got a lot of food, armor, and arrows, and most significantly strength potions, so I was pretty set for exploring and fighting, which was good because if you watched me before, that's all I do, fight and explore. I don't think I've ever even built a house in a single 100 days video I've ever made, so that should tell you all you need to know about me. Anyway, once I was done looting, I felt that I'd fought enough for that day, and so I went to bed to get a fresh new start on day 2, where I started off by actually looking through some of the crafting recipes available. I checked out what I could use diamonds for since I imagined they would be, you know, a bit useful, and so they were because I could use them in tandem with the sin ingot to make some boar ingots, which I could use to make Merlin's armor. But the recipe for sin ingots was a lot more expensive. It basically required like just a ludicrous amount of emeralds, so yeah, I knew I had to make some sort of emerald farm, so I needed to find a village ASAP. But yeah, besides Merlin's armor, there wasn't much I could use diamonds for, unfortunately. After that though, I wanted to get myself a weapon upgrade to kill things a little bit faster, so I made a longsword and used that longsword to craft a greatsword. It had a pretty slow attack speed of 1.2, for reference the normal sword has a speed of 1.6, but I think its 9.5 attack damage makes up for that. I explored around for the rest of day 2 and didn't find much, but on day 3 I found an abandoned village. But oh no, it wasn't so abandoned apparently because there were pillagers all around it. I guess they raided the village then stuck around. Anyway, I started fighting them and they did a lot of damage. Like without my shield I definitely would have died. On their own they weren't too bad, but man, as a group they just shredded my health. After a while it became clear that my gear on its own wasn't cutting it, so I had to drink one of my strength potions. And with that I could kill every pillager in one critical hit, which made things go a lot faster. I did still have some close calls though, so I had to be careful, but the strength made things a lot easier. After I killed most of them, I spotted an evoker, and I rushed straight for him to get a totem, and hey, with my strength that didn't take too long. He doesn't have too much health, he just does a lot of damage. But yeah, hoo boy, when the sun set I slept right away. That was way too much fighting for one day. On day 4 though, it was back to fighting, and to aid with that I made a bow and a musket, cause apparently that was the thing I could do. Later on, I found the 7 Deadly Sins biome, looks pretty nice and I could find sins here to fight, which was of course a bonus. And there were other things I could find here as well, which I'll talk about later, when I actually found out about them myself, because I was still pretty clueless at this time. Anyway, I later found myself a pretty cool castle. It was only a half castle because the generation cut half of it off, but hey, I'll take it. Some of the knights spotted me straight away, so I shot them with my bow and musket. Well, I did until this absolute unit came at me, who was resistant to arrows, so I had to fight him close up with my sword. But his really good armor had a downside, and made him really slow and not agile in general, so I was able to dodge all his attacks while in turn attacking him myself, and was thus able to defeat him. He dropped his chestplate, but unfortunately, it was worse than the diamond one I had. Why couldn't he have dropped literally any other armor piece, man? It looks so cool. Well, I digress. I fought a couple more mobs from the castle. One of them did an insane amount of damage to me in just a few hits, so I knew I had to be careful if I was going to conquer this castle. And yet again, I decided to get a good night's rest before making my attempt. On day 5, I made a chest and stored most of my loot in it. You know, in case the very real possibility of me dying came to fruition. And then I began my siege. I started off by just picking off a few stray mobs, but even that wasn't easy, cause some, like this one, had swords like mine that did insane damage each hit, so I still had to be very cautious. I climbed up the ladder to the top of this archer tower, and was met with a whole squad of, well, archers. Just like the pillagers from earlier, their bowshots did so much damage. I had to keep my shield up constantly and look for openings to attack, which rarely came fully, so I still ended up being shot once or twice each time, but eventually, after keeping the strategy up, I managed to defeat them. Next, I went around the castle's perimeter, just picking off any straggler mobs, before preparing myself for the final round, taking on the bulk of mobs in the castle. Not only that, but in an enclosed area too, so this was gonna be really dangerous, and as such, I was gonna have to play this very cautiously. I started off by shooting all the mobs I could from above. Them crowding like this made that easier, but eventually I ran out of arrows, so I had to jump headfirst into the snake pit. I tried my best to keep them back with my gun, but it took 10 years to reload, so I quickly resorted to melee. I took advantage of the AoE and quick recharge properties on my sword pretty well and was able to keep them back quite effectively. And good thing I could, since as I mentioned, they could pretty easily 4-shot me if I wasn't careful. The final fight was against another one of those fully armored knights and his squire, I guess. I don't know, just some weak dude who was next to him. Again, just some good movement and timing was all I needed to defeat them, and with that, I'd conquered the castle. It had pretty bad loot to be honest, nowhere near the loot I got from that ruined castle for some reason, but hey, at least I got to have a decent battle, which was good practice for some of the insane fights I had coming up. I then made myself a lance, since I'd gotten a saddle from somewhere, I forgot where exactly, but yeah. Anyway, the reason is, it said it did more damage on horseback, didn't specify how much, but I hoped it would be enough to justify the resources I spent making it. On day 6, after a little bit of exploring, I found another castle. It was the same as the last one, so I knew it wouldn't have the best loot, but nonetheless, I thought I'd conquer it. I did have some trouble though. I lacked a lot of the caution I had when sieging the last castle, since I was really overconfident from it, so I had multiple near-death experiences. Of course I had a totem, but still, that isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card. If I was really cornered, that would only buy me a few seconds. But nonetheless, my recklessness somehow didn't get me killed, and I was slowly but surely able to fight my way through the castle. After that, I spent days 7 to 9 exploring the world looking for a new structure to conquer, and I found a Viking village towards the end of day 9. On day 10, I decided to try out my lance on my horse, half because I wanted to test it out, and half because horse combat is really fun. Seriously, try it out. Especially with the bow, which I couldn't resist using as well. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. The lance. My conclusion is pretty much that it's a fine weapon, but nowhere near as strong as my current sword, which is about to get heavily upgraded. Won't spoil how, just watch the video for another minute, alright? Anyway, I got off my horse because even though it was fun, it was very slow. And after that, taking down the Vikings was pretty easy to do, since as I said, my sword was very good. And as I also said, it was about to get an upgrade because of this. That's right, a Sharpness 5 book. Might be a tad OP, but hey, I'm not complaining. I made a brand new greatsword because the other one was quite battle damaged, let's just say. And along with the Sweeping Edge 3 book I also found, that made for a pretty damn nice sword if I do say so myself. Anyway, after that I spent the rest of the day exploring and found another abandoned village, and got some string from the cobwebs in it. And with that, I was able to craft some backpacks to help me carry the immense amount of items that were really starting to pile up from all my adventures. When I woke up on day 11, just like the other village, I found a bunch of pillagers waiting for me. I was super overconfident with my Sharpness 5 sword, so I rushed straight in for the Evoker, since he was really the only mob there worth my time, and I killed him. But in the process I got dangerously low myself, but luckily I was able to escape, albeit barely. For the rest of the day, all the way until day 15, I farmed a bunch of sand that I could use to make glass, to trade for emeralds, since as shown I needed a lot of emeralds. On day 16, I found these weird bird thingies. They shot just an illegal amount of arrows at me, insanely quickly, and although they were annoying and armor damaging should I add, they weren't too hard to defeat. Anyways, I spent the rest of the day and day 17 exploring until I found a 7 Deadly Sins biome. After exploring for a couple more days, I came across this archer tower outpost thingy and had a little water battle with these mobs. After that, I climbed up it, and when I'd almost reached the top, I was attacked by a bunch of mobs at once. But my armor was pretty good by this point, so it didn't take much to defeat them. The tower literally had no loot though, like 0. So yeah, that whole battle was really worth the effort. After that, I found an Enderman and killed it, and luckily it dropped a pearl. Who knows, might come in useful later. On day 25, I found Diane. I aimed my musket at her and shot. It takes a long time to reload though, so I had to use my bow in the meantime. Or I would have, but she's immune to arrows. Okay, guess I had no choice but to melee her. Very bad idea, she had a giant battle hammer in her hand, but I literally had no other options. So I just rushed in and she came in swinging right away. And she was really fast too, like I was sweating in real life. I had to try real hard during this fight if I didn't want to get hit. And judging by her weapon, it would probably just take a few hits to kill me. And I was right, 6 hearts in 1 hit. So basic addition and subtraction should tell us that it will only take her 2 hits to kill me. And keep in mind please, I had 9 armor bars, almost as much as full diamond. So yeah, the sins were no joke at all. After regenerating both my health and mental health because that experience scarred both, I went in for round 2. This time employing my shield. Though it was really hard to use because I had to hotkey between it and my sword, rather than just right clicking, because my totem was in my offhand. And in this fight especially, that was a much higher priority to have on hand than a shield. I did good just running around dodging her hits and getting my own pot shots in for a while, but eventually my luck ran out and she got a really big hit on me once again. I again ran away to regenerate my health, but no matter, I came back for round 3 and started off by getting a good rhythm off on her. I had to run to heal my hunger, which was also a very big thing to keep in mind during this fight, and after that I went in for some more hits, but got too greedy and she was able to trade hits with me. So yet again, your boy had to run and heal. Round 4 I came in and got hit right away. No matter, round 5 I came in again and shot her with my musket. But then some other mobs started coming in to interrupt our fight, so I had to deal with them real quick, and then I resumed our fight. I shot her again, then got a quick hit in before retreating, and getting a quick crit in soon after. Then I got another shot in and 2 quick hits, and that was able to win me the fight. Overall, this fight was mainly about a hell of a lot of caution and quick thinking. It had my heart rate higher than it had been all week, but with that, I defeated my first sin. Only 6 to go. Hooey, this is gonna be a long 100 days. On day 26, I spent some time mining for emeralds because I couldn't for the life of me find a non-deserted village for trading, but halfway through I realized that I didn't have to craft holy ingots, the basis for the sin ingots, and therefore armor and weapons, but that I could also mine it in the sin biome, so that's just what I did until day 31, since the stuff was really rare and it took that long just to mine a couple, but that's okay cause I only needed a couple since I needed to craft like a flint and steel type thing to enter the Fairy King dimension, to, you guess it, fight King. I spent almost all of day 32 looking around the Sin biome to find the portal to the fairy dimension, and I finally did find it, standing atop this hill. I'll be honest, it looks amazing, especially when it's lit. But with that being said, I went in, and after exploring for a little bit, I found King. I guess he heard that a legendary Minecrafter had come to face him and he came rushing over, but your guess is as good as mine. Anyway, he was immune to arrows, so that meant I had to yet again risk my life and go in for melee, along with my musket, but the reload is so bad that it barely makes a difference. Anyway, King was a lot easier than Diane. He was slower and I was able to get a good rhythm on him. He got a hit off on me towards the end, so I had to back off to heal, but it wasn't enough to save him. Alright, 2 sins down, 5 more to go. After that fight though, I didn't want to have to play as defensively while fighting the sins. I wanted to be able to rush them head on, so that only left me one option, to get the sin armor. And who's better armor to get than the dragon sin himself, Meliotis. But this required a lot of iron, like just an obscene amount, so I mined all the way till day 49. My first order of business was to craft the Lost Vein sword, and even though I love my old sword, nah, sorry, you gotta go buddy. After that I crafted all of my iron into the Meliotis ingots, and I only got enough for the leggings. Alright, back to the mines. And I didn't leave the mines until day 81. But with all of that mining out of the way, like good god was there a lot, I'd finally done it. I made Meliotis' set. But a small glitch with this is that it'll take damage off you if you go above 10 hearts, which you'll frequently do since the set gives you regen. So yeah, just a small flaw, but very annoying nonetheless. I spent day 82 and 83 running around exploring, and then I ran into Meliotis. I guess he heard someone was using his set and he wasn't too happy about that, so I went in for the fight. I started with my sword, then switched to my musket, which held him back a bit, but as I said, the reload time of that thing was insanely slow, so I had no choice but to go in for the melee. As you can expect, Meliotis was a tank, both in terms of attack and defense, so I had to retreat to heal up a lot, and during one of those times I backed up, I led Meliotis to some mobs to distract him, because he just kills everything, and I was able to use this distraction to my advantage and soon after defeated him. 4 more to go. I spent the next few days exploring the world to find some new structures, and in the process found a dragon skeleton. I collected the bones and saw what they could be used for, but there wasn't much I could do since I needed other modded items for those crafting recipes which I didn't have, but it was nice to have the bones just in case. On day 88, while running back to 7 Deadly Sins biome, I found a Cyclops. I start off the fight by using my bow and musket on him. then went in with my sword, but he picked me up and did an insane amount of damage by dropping me. So from then on, I made the fight purely ranged with my bow and musket. But even then, he was pretty fast, so I had to be careful dodging him, and when I wasn't, I got picked up and almost died again, but I kept with it and eventually defeated him. He dropped his eye, which apparently inflicted damage to all nearby opponents when held, so that was an option I could use in the future when fighting groups. So even though the fight was long and dangerous, I think that loot made it pretty worth it. On day 89 to 90, I made it back to the Sins biome and found Gother. I went in with my sword, but I was quickly driven back by his bow, which had insane knockback. I went back in, and my strategy was to get in close with my back against the wall so I could get some hits off. But when I did, he shot me really quickly and did an insane amount of damage, so I had to retreat. The rest of the fight was pretty much just him keeping his distance while I tried to close in and get a couple hits off. So as expected, this took a while, but by the time the sun set, I defeated him. 3 more to go. He dropped his bow, and if how he used it was to be any indication, this was going to be a really useful weapon. On day 91 and 92, I explored the Sin biome a bit more and found the Bora hat. I went inside and found Ban and started fighting him. I knew he would do a lot of damage, so I decided to use the Cyclops item for this fight by putting it in my offhand instead of my totem. But even after giving him weakness, he still did a ton of damage, so I had to be really careful fighting him. I was pretty much backing up the entire time while getting hits off, and after a little while the strategy paid off and I defeated him. After that, I checked the crates in the Bora hat and found some ale, so I drank a bottle and yeah, not doing that one again. After that, I went upstairs and found Merlin. She was in an enclosed space, so she wasn't able to do that much against me, and so she was probably the easiest Sin to defeat of them all. And with that, we were down to one final opponent. And so, after exploring for a few days, I found the Pride Sin, Escanor, and began fighting him. I tried to shoot him with my bow, but just like with most of the other Sins, that didn't work on him. My musket did though, but as we've covered, that weapon's just way too slow to use in a full fight, so I had no choice but to go in with my sword. I got some good hits off because we were fighting in water, but when he did get a hit off on me, it did a good chunk of damage even though I was using the Cyclops eye. So I was a lot more careful after that, and basically became an acrobat for the rest of the fight. I was so lucky to fight him in water because if I didn't, things would have been exponentially harder. But because I did, I was able to defeat him soon after. I spent days 96 to 97 exploring some more, and by mid-day 98 I found myself a dragon. I started off by unloading all my ranged weapons at it, including Gother's bow, but when it did get close I ran away a bit to shoot it some more, but instead it shot me with a huge gust of ice that froze me in place while doing a ton of damage. I eventually broke free, but as I did, the dragon flew up into the sky and shot me with another gust of ice. I used my water bucket to escape before it could do more damage though, and in response, the dragon flew way up into the sky and crashed down with a huge ice blast. As it slowly approached me, I spammed it with arrows which were able to get it to retreat up into the sky before coming back down with another ice attack. I spammed my arrows again, but this time couldn't get it to fly away. It picked me up and I started using my sword on it, which did a ton of damage each strike, and after just a few seconds I defeated it. It dropped a bunch of stuff, but I couldn't really use them for much, except for the scales which I could use to craft this amazing looking helmet. Unfortunately though, the Meliotis helmet was stronger, so I had no choice but to give it up. On day 99, I ran back to the Sins biome, and on day 100, what greeted me was quite the sight. All the 7 deadly Sins gathered together after I defeated them to take me on all at once. Now I didn't sign up for this, I thought I was only gonna have to do 1v1s, but hey, it was day 100, so why not, I was up for the challenge. I started off by drinking the strength potion I'd saved since the beginning and ate my enchanted golden apple and just went in. I shot a bunch of them with my bow, then focused in on Escanor. I put my totems in my bar because I definitely need them once my golden apple ran out, and I continued critting out Escanor. I brought King into the fray and Ban, but kept them all back with my musket and bow, and once I got them away I went back in for Escanor. My golden apple ran out, so he was doing an insane amount of damage to me now, but I carried on and defeated him. He dropped his axe, which was slightly stronger than my sword, and I needed all the help I could get, so I switched to it for the rest of the fight. I also ran out of food from this fight, so yeah, I had to fight 6 Sins without being able to naturally heal. I started with a 1v1 against King. It was pretty standard, I hit him with my sword a bunch, then switched to my bow at the end for the final blow. He dropped his boots, but they weren't anywhere as good as Meliotis's. Next I went for Ban, and got a lot of good hits off on him at the start, but he was able to get some back on me, but I was pretty quickly able to defeat him. Next was Diane, and I had to start being very cautious. She got me down to 4.5 hearts right away, and I couldn't heal. I quickly got down even lower because I stupidly took fall damage, and so I got out one of my totems. She didn't kill me though, so I retreated and started shooting her. She was already low, so it didn't take too long after that to defeat her. Next was Meliotis, and I was on 2 hearts at this point, so I just kept shooting him to keep him against the tree, but my Gother bow broke, and so I had to resort to letting him kill me with my totem in my hand so I could get some regeneration from that. And I got a pretty decent amount of health because of it, but nonetheless I had to have a one-on-one melee fight against Meliotis, so he quickly brought me back down, and I had to use another totem. I ran away to regen as much as I could, then went back in, and apparently he was a one-hit, so I finished him off. Next was Merlin. We had a ranged battle at first, but then I went in for melee and she did a lot more damage up close, but so did I, and so we traded hits until I defeated her. And there I was, no sprint, 3 hearts, up against Gother for the final battle. He could fly, so I had no choice but to keep it ranged. I tried my best to dodge his shots throughout, but he still hit some. I spammed him with arrows as I edged closer and closer. He retaliated with a shot of his own, which got me down to 1 heart. From there, I tried my best to dodge his arrows while shooting back some of my own, but in the end he cornered me and I lost. Well, there you go. My 100 days and 7 deadly sins had come to an end. Tell me if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more. Leave suggestions on what mods I should try next, and with that all being said, I'll see you all next time. Peace.